Hi everybody, welcome to Your Right to Know with Tony DeFazio of DeFazio and Zeiden. We've been talking about the Bill Cosby case, which has been all over the news, national attention that it's been getting. Bill Cosby recently going to court, and Tony DeFazio is here to talk about the case. And we've talked about some of the other stuff leading up to the case, but let's talk about the actual prosecution itself and what their case is, and do they have a case?
Well, they have a case, but is it a very strong case? They've got some serious problems. And I think that's why in 2005, when this case was originally brought to a different prosecutor, that they declined to prosecute the case. Because having all the information, having a statement from Mr. Cosby, having the statements from the victim in the case, and all of the evidence that they were able to gather, they decided there was not enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Cosby was guilty of this sexual assault. That case has not gotten any better in the last 10 years. And I think the initial problems, which are detailed in the affidavit of the prosecutor, I think come through. The first big problem is going to be this issue of why was the victim going over to his house. Now, normally it's not an issue. Why would you be going over if your mentor says, come over and let's talk about your work? There's a perfectly good reason to go over there. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that this was the third time in the course of a month where she had gone to his house. And on the first two occasions, she freely admits that he tried to come on to her, to have a sexual relationship with her, to physically grabbed her, physically tried to kiss her, and that she spurred both of these advances. And if that's the case, then why are you going over for a third time knowing that there's not going to be nobody else there? Right. It doesn't mean that you don't have the right to consent or that you have the right to say no, but from a standpoint of believability to a third party, which is what we're talking about here, going to a jury, is a jury really going to believe, as they say in the affidavit, that she still trusted him, that she still thought he wasn't going to try to have a sexual relationship with him when he had done that on two previous occasions within a 1 month period? That's a very serious issue, and I think is the critical issue in the case. The second part is the drug. The only thing that they have as evidence is his statement, and he claims that the drug was Benadryl. Now, Benadryl can make you drowsy, can affect your ability to understand what's going on, but it rarely has the ability to completely incapacitate you to the point where you cannot consent to having sex. And remember, this is a consent case. This is not a force case. So they've got to prove that she was so incapacitated by that drug that it completely made her unable to say no. Benadryl, I don't know if it's going to get you that far. Now, they have some other evidence that he may have used Quaaludes in the past, which he referred to as Quaaludes, which that was like a 60s term. I don't know if they even call drugs that anymore, but when I heard it, that's the first thing I thought of. But, you know, if he's got narcotics, if it's something else, then that's obviously more serious, if it's a drug that can incapacitate. But they don't have proof of that, and they don't have any evidence of that. Even today, there's no allegation of what the specific drug was. That's going to be a serious problem. The third problem, as I see it, is there was a delay in the outcry. And, you know, there are certainly plenty of reasons why victims of sexual assault wait and don't make these allegations right away. Certainly, he was a very high-profile person. Making this type of an allegation is very serious. But there was a 1-year point where she does not complain or allege that this happened to anyone. And that's a problem because even though there are reasons why you can't do this, it becomes problematic for a third party, a jury, looking at this, now looking on the fact that she went over twice before, now looking at this trust issue, and then finally that after they've declined to prosecute, she brings this lawsuit and she gets some money. So when you add up all four of those problems, as I see it, I think that's the reason why the district attorney should not have prosecuted. The final problem that the district attorney is going to have is this. In October, as late as October of last year, this district attorney who was running for re-election, it's not the same as who made the decision 12 years ago, right, ran for re-election, and one of the things that he says in his campaign is that he complains about the prior district attorney not prosecuting Bill Cosby. And it was almost as if he was using this as a political point that I'm going to prosecute Bill Cosby, vote for me in November. That becomes problematic because it says to the jurors that you're doing this is a political prosecution. The only reason you're doing this is because you're trying to get the publicity. And that might, at a minimal level, get him removed from the case. But certainly, when they start complaining about that, you're only prosecuting him because you're trying to get some publicity, they've got a legitimate point. You put this in a campaign ad. If you're actually putting it in a campaign ad, which is not proper, which would be not proper in New York, it would be a serious ethical violation. And it's not supposed to be what a prosecutor is supposed to do. A prosecutor is supposed to be independent, impartial, and not make decisions based on political agendas, but clearly here, in his own ad, he's making it based on political. So that, on top of everything else, weaknesses in the case, and the fact that it was rejected by another prosecutor 10 years ago, I think there's going to be some significant hurdles for the prosecution to overcome, and I don't necessarily think that there's going to be a conviction.
All right, but on the other side of the coin, Bill Cosby's case has got some holes in it as well.
Right.
We're going to talk about that in our next episode as we continue this investigation of Bill Cosby. And Tony DeFazio is giving us all of his insight to help us through that and to understand it a little bit better. You're watching Your Right to Know, and we'll see you next time.